Hey, I'm Marc Cunningham with Grace Property Management. So we work with a lot of real estate investors who own rental property, and very often those investors decide, you know what, I think I want to upgrade my rental property. So maybe they'll sell their rental condo and they'll buy a single family, or they'll sell their single family and they'll buy a duplex, or they sell the duplex and buy a small multifamily. And often what's used in that process is what's called a 1031 tax exchange. Now here's why that's so important to know, because the 1031 tax exchange rules may be changing or going away altogether very, very shortly. So if you've been thinking about upgrading, you better pay attention because this is important. So the quick 30-second history is this. Back in 1921, raise your hand if you remember that year. Raise your hand if you voted for Woodrow Wilson. He was the president in 1921. That's the year the 1031 tax exchange came into place. Because what the government saw in 1921, for you history buffs, is that people that owned property, not their own house where they lived, but property that they rented out, it had gone up in value. And so rather than sell it and pay the taxes, they thought, I'm just not going to sell it. Because if I sell it, I'm going to have to pay the government a bunch of taxes. So guess what? I just won't sell. I'll just sit on my property. And by and large, a lot of people did that. Well, the government is in the business of encouraging trade, encouraging commercial transactions. And they said, gosh, we want people to buy. We want people to sell. So how can we encourage those people who own rental real estate to sell? And the people that owned it said, well, don't charge us all these taxes because it takes away all of our profits. So for example, let's pretend that you owned a property that you had purchased for $250,000. And it's been 5 years, and now the thing is worth $350,000. You made a profit of $100,000. And you think, oh, all right, I'm gonna sell my property, and maybe I'll take my $100,000, I'm gonna go buy something else. I'm gonna go upgrade. Well, before a 1031, if you don't do a 1031, guess what you have to pay taxes on? You have to pay a tax on the profit. So maybe it's a 30% tax, depending on capital gains, 25, 30, we'll see how that lands. So instead of giving $100,000 profit, you've got to give 25, 30,000 of that profit right to the government, and you're left with a lot less. The way a 1031 exchange works is simply this. It allows you to swap your property, and just think of it that way, swap your current property for a different property, and as long as all the money you sell it for goes right into the new property, you don't have to pay any capital gains tax. Now, if you sell the new property, you'll have to pay it. So eventually, it'll catch up to you. But what this does, and the reason it's called a 1031 is that's the tax code within the IRS. It's tax provision 1031. And it says as long as you swap your property quickly, and there's a lot of rules around it. So if you need information on how to do that, contact us. We'll be happy to hold your hand through that process. But you've got to get it right or you face tax consequences. But if you sell a property and swap it into a new one and take all the profit and put it right into the new property, you don't have to pay any capital gains. So potentially two changes. The Biden administration is proposing rules that say, A, maybe what we'll do, they say, is we will cap the gain at $500,000. You think, well, gosh, that's a lot of money. And yeah, that is a lot of money. But what if you own a large commercial property? Well, a $500,000 profit is going to get eaten up pretty quick. It's going to be there, and that is going to discourage property owners from selling. So that's option one. They may say, you know what, we'll still let you have some of your profit without tax, but only $500,000. Like, okay. Other people within the administration are saying, nah, even that's too much. We just want to just kill the 1031 tax exchange altogether. Now, this has been in place since 1921. This would be a shock to the residential and the commercial real estate world. I've already myself talked to investors, local investors, who've said, you know what, I think I may just want to sell now because I'm going to pay my tax and I'm out because I can't risk the idea of a 1031 tax exchange going away. So we're not a supporter of this. We believe this will do a lot of damage to the rental real estate world. It's going to discourage transactions. That's exactly what will happen because sellers will say, I don't want to sell. I don't want to pay the tax now. I'm just going to sit on it. And if they sit on it, they're not going to take as good of care of it. So it's a discouraging thing from the overall aspect. But if you've got questions on this, consider us a resource here at Grace Property Management. Now may be the best time ever to take advantage of the 1031 tax exchange while it's still there. If you've been thinking of upgrading your property, swapping your property into something different, now is the time to do that. Because if you wait, you may not have that opportunity. But give our office a call. We'd be happy to point you in the direction of some other good rental properties that may be beneficial to your portfolio because you want to position yourself now for the future so that you can achieve that financial independence through owning investment real estate.